Notnerd Podcast, episode 230, an all-time Rob Lowe.
Welcome to the Notnerd Podcast. I am Nate Heath, and we are here to help you tech better. We've got all the week's tech news and some great tips for you today. Here with me, as always, Mr. Dave Baylor.
Well, hello, my friend. I'm excited to podcast with you today. I've looked forward to it all week long. I didn't have the greatest of mornings, and so now I get to spend time with my friend, and I love it.
Yes, there do tend to be less things to look forward to in our current situation, so having something like the podcast to look forward to is always great.
I agree.
Let's move on to some follow-up. Now, I do not like these kind of follow-ups where I made a major foible last week on the podcast. We were discussing Rob Lowe and his new podcast. I also saw this week he's hosting one of those sensationalist game shows on broadcast television. I mentioned that he was from the show Community. That is completely wrong. He was on Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec, I would say, is a far superior show. I like both of them quite a bit. But I think Parks and Rec Community could also be a fitting title for Parks and Rec. I'm just trying to make excuses at this point.
Yeah.
But for all of those that were listening going, Community, I never saw him on Community. You are right. He was on Parks and Rec, which they just did a live reading type thing of a new episode or something, a table read. I didn't get to see it, but I saw some posts about it. I need to check that out.
Yeah, our household, it's all about The Office, Parks and Rec, and Community.
Yeah.
If we could just watch those one after another, just on a loop throughout the year, then I think our family would be completely happy. So maybe we should just buy the complete seasons of all three and unsubscribe from all of our streaming
just watch
TV.
Those. Yes, the holistic cost just makes sense. I actually saw this in my news feed this week, and then I was going through some emails and I saw it there. I have sung the praises of the automatic tracking device in my car. It's a little thing that plugs into the ODB port, OBD, onboard diagnostics, and it tracks all your mileage, which is great for my business mileage. I just download a report at the end of the year, and I've got all my mileage for the entire year. Well, they just announced this week that May 28th, they are shutting down service, and they are asking you to remove the device from your car. Now, I don't know if that part, what's going to happen? Is it going to explode or something?
It's going to make your drive in reverse and your reverse into drive.
Yeah. So there were some other nice features too that I got with the newer version, where it would do roadside assistance, and it would also tell you if there's things wrong with your car. So I'm pretty sad about this. I know there are other services out there, but I had just bought this new one. Well, I bought it about a year ago now, I think, but I had it in there for a while, and it was just one of those set it and forget it things, which I love set it and forget it things. So now I'm going to have to figure out what is next. But reading through it, they were bought by SiriusXM a while back. They also state in the article, the COVID-19 pandemic has adversely impacted our business, which for any existing devices, just because people aren't driving, I don't see how that impacts their business. But people
don't they
probably
have a
aren't buying
subscription component to their service? So people probably drop their subscription since they're not driving anywhere to save money.
That's true. And it was something like $5 a month, and I had a free year or something, but very disappointing. So I guess I'll have to go through we should maybe someday go through the website and update some of the services that are no longer around that we've recommended in the past.
Yeah, that might be a good idea.
If you listen to me on that one, sorry, they're shutting down, and I'll have to look for another solution. I'm not driving as much for work anymore either. That was doing last year's taxes. I realized I think about 25% of the business driving that I did the year before, so not as essential for me, but those extra features, having an older car, it was nice to have those built in through this third-party device.
And you may be eligible for a rebate for discontinued service if you just bought the thing. So see manufacturer for details.
Yes, I will be doing that. The next piece we have, the new iPhone SE. Somebody took an iPhone 8 one of the new SEs and an 11 Pro, which I have, and did some photo comparisons. So if you have an iPhone 8, or if you're just thinking about getting a new phone and kind of trying, and the camera is important to you, if you're weighing out the SE and the 11 Pro, they do a bunch of different scenes, like all these photo comparisons, and kind of give you a breakdown of where it is. But everybody seems to think that the SE photos are pretty great. There was somebody, one of the big review sites, I think maybe Anantech, they actually had a faulty camera in theirs. They were doing all this testing going, the quality on this camera is horrible. They contacted Apple, got a new one. They're like, nope, it's good. We just had a bad one, which stinks when one of the top most thorough review sites gets a bad unit. And it's kind of like, what in the world is going on here? Another note on that, the starting at $399 iPhone SE, there was a bunch of reports this week, has a more powerful processor than any Android phone. Yeah. And a lot of it, too, besides the processor really isn't that important. It's how well it works with the software and all that, which Apple obviously does an amazing job. But just goes to show you, again, what a value that phone is at $399. Dave, did you get a chance to try out Quibi yet?
I actually did. I felt a little guilty not following through on my promise the previous week. And so I tried out Quibi. And I have to say, as suspected, I don't believe it's really a service for me.
Yes.
I picked a show to watch initially, which I think helps with the demise in my mind. It just was not a very good program. I could look it up and tell you what it is. I think I'm going to refrain so I don't inadvertently encourage other people to seek it out and watch it.
Yes.
But the humor of the show went from kind of rude to completely disgusting and inappropriate, like super fast. Yeah. And I'm just like, come on. Yeah. This is just, there's the line, you cross the line, and now you're like so far past the line. What am I looking at? A Ben Stiller movie from the 90s type of. Anyway, so I tried something else. And I was just like, you know what? This is not worth my time and trouble. I kept flipping the thing around. So I think a little bit on this, not to go too long on the segment, but I figured out how they're doing it. They are actually editing two completely different streams. Yeah. And when you switch, it's switching from one stream to the other. Because there's this cooking segment with Titus, I can't remember his last name, from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. It's a food show. That was the other one I watched. And they actually do different camera angles and different insets and different stuff depending on which version you watch. Because I backed it up and watched through both ways. And I was like, they have to be doing something different. So anyway, that's the magic. They edit two completely different streams depending on your orientation.
Yeah. And I have not been drawn back to the app. I've seen it on my phone. I'm just like, there's nothing that's keeping me there. Obviously, for some people, it's going to be the right solution. I was going to mention one of the frustrating things is you cannot put it onto a TV. So it is very much a individual watching service, which I enjoy watching things with other people and stuff like that. There's rumors that they're going to push that out where you could watch on a TV. But yeah.
I think they're going to be bankrupt in 6 months.
Yes.
That's what I think.
Okay. We'll put it in the records. 6 months from now, we'll check back in on Quibi. Something we love to check in on every week is Dave's Pro Tip of the Week.
So this week, Nate, I thought it could be simple. Last week was just the pinnacle of terrible Wi-Fi at our house. Was it the service provider? Was it our equipment? Was it everybody using the stuff at the same time? Like, what was going on? It was really hard to pinpoint. I emailed my service provider a couple times. I'm like, are you guys having trouble? Never got back to me, of course. So I decided to take it upon myself and rejigger, look it up. I'm sure it's a real term. I rejiggered the way that I do our in-home internet service. Just a quick overview. Previously, I have service to my garage, and I ran a long wire across my house and put my Wi-Fi access point kind of in our living room. And then I had a bunch of extender access points that would kind of make a mesh network all throughout my house. Yes. So, on paper and in theory, that should work well. But you've got like ventilation systems and people who are bags of mostly water and microwave ovens and all these things that interfere with the signal all the time. So I think we don't stress enough, especially for people who are working from home now, that wireless internet is not always the way to go.
Yeah.
If you have wired internet access, or you can easily add it to your home setup, you should do that.
Yeah.
Today, last time we recorded the show, we had all kinds of internet problems at my house, and it was just, it was torturous trying to record the show. Well, today I'm glad to say that I'm hardwired into our router, and we've had flawless service so far.
Yeah.
And so just some quick tips of what you can do. Instead of having our router clear on the other side of the house in the living room, I moved it back to the garage where the source of the internet comes in. Then I ran that wire from my router back into the living room. It was still there, still connected. And I hardwired it into one of my access points. So I didn't rely now on a wireless connection. They're now wired back and forth. So now I've got 2 wired access points.
Nice.
My house also has a wire that goes upstairs to one of the bedrooms with a wall port. And so I hardwired another wireless access point. So now in 3 different parts of the house, I have 3 wired access points that don't rely on the air between them to transmit signal.
Yeah.
They have a hard wire going between them. So I have 3 very solid wireless access points. And from those, you can run other wires to hard connect them to other devices. So for example, my iMac that I use is hardwired in one of the access points. I could do that with my wife's computer upstairs, or maybe a Chromebook or whatever the kids are using if they're having trouble. You can plug right into it because it's nearby now. So anyway, that's my tip. Do you have any other insights or wisdom you can shed on wired versus wireless internet?
Yeah, anytime you can go wired, it's just going to be more stable as long as you have a good wire. The Adam Carolla podcast, his sound effect guy, Bald Brian, they've been obviously recording the show remotely. They're each at their homes, and he's always having connection problems. And he was saying on the show the other day, he said, the Wi-Fi point's at the furthest point in the house from where I'm sitting to be able to record. And they kind of have an open floor plan house, and he's got a daughter about the age of mine. And so he's, at the kitchen table where he can kind of block things off it, but he has a horrible connection. And it's like, okay, this is a multi-million-dollar podcast. Can we order him a 100-foot cable?
Yeah.
That during the podcast, you run across the floor. You don't have to go under the house, any of that, just for the show, just so that he's not dropping off all the time and they have to go, what happened to Brian? Where'd he go? Oh, there he is. Oh, ding, ding, he's back. And it cracks me up that we care so much about our podcast that is only a $1 million podcast. If you round up very generously from 0 to these multi-million-dollar podcasts where it's like somebody can come in their house with a hazmat suit and get them set up correctly so that this can work.
It doesn't take much, folks.
No.
And so the moral of the story is you have internet coming into your house and it's going into a box. From there, you're probably like, well, it goes wirelessly. Check on the back of that box. There's probably an Ethernet port connector that you can run a cable and plug it directly into your computer. Guess what? A lot of the newer computers don't have an Ethernet port. Well, you can go on Amazon.com and buy a USB to Ethernet adapter.
Yep.
Plug them together. There are solutions, and they do not cost a lot of money. For under $100, you can convert anything that you've got from a wireless to a wired connection.
Yes.
If your business really depends on it, it's worth spending the money.
Yep. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And and I would also say if you use an iPad and you're like, well, there's no Ethernet port, you can actually connect a Ethernet adapter to your iPad and hardwire into it. They added that in a couple of years ago to be able to do that. So if that's your problem, there is a solution. And as always, if you have questions, let us know. We love it in the Notnerd Facebook group and everything when you're asking your questions, because there's a good chance we have some kind of answer for you. Okay, well, let's move on to our takes of the week. Every company, or many companies, are trying to adjust to people working at home. And I found an interesting article talking about what they call tattleware, which all these companies are not trusting their employees. And so they're installing software. Some of them, It'll take a picture on the webcam every once in a while to see, make sure they're working at their desk, or it might check what they're browsing, what windows in front on their computer, which to all of this, I say, there's much better ways to do this. There's things called relationship and expectations that I believe are much more effective for this. And
or making good hires.
Yes, good hires and clear expectations most of the time. With a lot of the clients I work with in my business, one of my clients, he actually wrote a book just on how to run a business, and he talks a lot about just the fact of if a problem happens with an employee, there's a very good chance that it was your expectations of what they're supposed to do and them not knowing that that causes the problems. But yeah, so if you are one of those workers that is being that has some tattleware installed on your computer, I'd love to hear from you and see what you think about that. Our next take, our lovely Facebook, they have fully rolled out a new tool. One of the things that they've done since the Cambridge Analytica scandals and all this data protection and privacy things is allowing you to, they don't call it takeout, that's Google, but you can take all of your data out of Facebook. You can pull old posts, old photos and everything. Well, they have a new tool where you can transfer photos from Facebook into Google Photos, which we highly recommend, especially as a photo backup service. So now with the click of a couple buttons, you could transfer all of the photos that you've ever had on Facebook over to Google Photos, which we always say, one backup is none backup. So you never know what's going to happen to your Facebook account, so this could be a good option for you.
Now, does it copy information back the other way? What's the incentive for Facebook? Is there a switch to pull Google Photos into the Facebook service that you are aware of?
I am not aware of that. I think the motivation for Facebook on this is to try to be more transparent and give people more options for getting their data off of there. So I don't know. As you tend to do, you start to think about what's in this for Facebook. And I don't know what data they could possibly, the article is actually pretty short over at The Verge, but the Data Transfer Project is a data sharing initiative that launched in 2018 to help people easily move their data between various online services. So portability, Apple, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, and Twitter are all trying to build some of this stuff in so that you can have a little bit more control over your data. A little more Facebook. They announced that old Zuckerberg said this, the COVID-19 pandemic has increased their viewership. Obviously, some people have more time. Some people want to keep up with what's going on with family and friends and the news. And so they announced that last month, they had 3 billion active users across their services. Now, you do have to remember this includes Instagram and WhatsApp. And I forget what the other one is. It is in the Instagram Messenger, which I still consider part of Facebook, and WhatsApp. So 3 billion users. I saw an interesting thing on Twitter saying that if you take China out of the equation, because they technically don't have Facebook there, it is such a huge portion of the population that is on Facebook every single month.
Wow.
They get a lot of traffic. They have said that ad revenue is way down. One of the things when an economic crisis hits that many companies do is they reduce ad spending. As a business owner that helps people with advertising, I would say, depending on the status of your business right now, it might be a time to up your advertising if you need to bring in some more business. But there's a lot of change going on in the technology world, but a lot of people are spending time on Facebook. We did have a product announcement or a product release this week. Google has released their Pixel Buds 2. So this is their answer to AirPods. This time there isn't a wire that goes behind your neck. They're just these dome type things. They look like a Mentos mint sticking out of your ear.
I'm a little triggered by the photo they chose to put on their page. So what is that wire piece that's going around that person's ear?
I believe that's a piercing.
Okay, so it's not part of the Pixel Bud.
No.
Okay, that was confusing me. I was like, this is not something I would like. So, yes, these seem like they're, when you look further down the page, a piece that goes inside your ear, a disc about the size of a dime or a nickel that looks like a Mentos, like you said, and then a little tiny little protruding piece that kind of goes up into the upper vertical area of your ear. It's for stability, I'm assuming.
Yes. So the Verge says the good stuff, much improved design, wireless charging, hands-free Google Assistant, easy pairing on Android phones. Bad stuff, the stabilizer arc can cause discomfort after extended listening. Bass doesn't match some competitors' average battery life. Vented design lets in a fair amount of outside noise. So these would compete with the regular AirPods, not the AirPods Pro, and they come in at $179, so they're more expensive. So if you're on Android, maybe, but the AirPods are still amazing, and everybody's just trying to catch up with what Apple has done.
Yeah, and there's a rumor, of course, that new AirPods are going to be coming soon. So I think Apple is going to leapfrog whatever innovations other manufacturers make so that they can continue to stay ahead.
Yes. Security and privacy story of the week. Xiaomi, which is a phone maker that produces very reasonably priced Android phones. There was some security researchers found that they are doing all sorts of tracking, all sorts of places. They say Xiaomi says it's all anonymous and everything, but the person that did the research said, well, it doesn't look that way. It looks like you could easily track this down to the person. So again, when the price is low,
that's beside the point, because they're taking the data, whether it's anonymous or not, without the consent of the people who are creating the data.
Yes. Well, it's in some agreement somewhere that you click through, I'm sure, in the small print. But it's not good. So once again, when you're buying a super cheap phone, they've got to make money somehow, so that's how they're doing it, collecting data. They say it's anonymous and passing it on to people so they can use that data. Our bonus odd take of the week is a fun little website I came across. It's called thiswebsitewillselfdestruct.com, and it says, "Hi, I'm a website. I'll be gone soon, and that's okay. You can send me messages using the form below. If I go 24 hours without receiving a message, I'll permanently self-destruct, and everything will be wiped from my database. That's okay, though. Until then, let me know how you're doing. Other people will be able to read what you write, but your name or identity won't be attached to anything, so feel free to say what's on your mind. It's been a rough month. With love, this website will self-destruct.com." So just a silly looking little website that was created, and right now the website will self-destruct in 86,300 seconds. So you can go check that out, send a message in if you want. You can vent to this website and keep it alive a little longer.
Yeah, I was just clicking through some of the messages, and I'm surprised there aren't more vulgarities or anything like that. There was one recommendation for people to listen to "I Want to Go to the Moon" song or something like that. I'll have to be looking at that later.
Yes, a fun little thing. You know what you should all be looking at later? Our picks of the week.
So I had an app in there, and I'm going to save that because I came across this website last week, and I don't believe that we've talked about it before. But now that we're kind of all trying to stream different services and Netflix and Hulu and YouTube and all of these different things, where are the shows that I want to watch? The more services we have, the more confusing it gets. And I know on the Apple side of things, they try to use their TV app, not the Apple TV box, but the app with the confusing and the what does it do? And is it on my phone? Is it whatever? Well, this web service cuts through all the clutter. And the service is called Real Good, and it can be found at realgood.com.
Yes.
And I signed up for this a long time ago and just recently rediscovered it. But what it does is you go and you tell it what services you have. So example, Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video from Amazon, HBO, etc. And you link them all together. They don't take your account information, I don't believe. You just tell them what services you have. And then you search through the services and you say, I want to watch these, put these on my watch list. I've seen these. You can rate stuff. And you can do a search and you say, I want to watch Casablanca, and it'll pop up what service it's available on. There are some free services like, like Crackle and different things like that. Those free services out there, Pluto, you can connect those as well. And maybe there's something that you want to watch that's available for free out there. So the free service bundle that they include has over 2,000 shows and movies from services like Fox, CBS, ABC, Crackle, and many, many more. So like the big networks offer some free content, and then some of the services do as well. Like HBO right now is offering some free content, and so it would probably be included in that free services bundle. But it's easy to do. You sign up for an account, you put a checkbox next to the services that you subscribe to, and then go to town. All of your content can be managed in one single place.
Nice. Well, I am glad you came across that, because I had actually seen it somewhere, downloaded the app, and meant to talk to you about it. So I have the app on my phone. I have not opened it because we know how good I am with movies. But yeah, I do have the app on my iPhone. I was hoping that you would find it, since I had neglected to tell you about it for so long.
Yes.
So it's good to have these little services with so many different places out there to try to find stuff. Well, my pick of the week this week is I'm actually going to mention two different services. There's one called Epoch Cam, and the other one's called Orion Webcam.
What?
Yes. So these two different apps, we've talked a lot about. It's hard to get external webcams. The webcam in your laptop might not be that great. And so I was thinking one day, I was like, there's got to be some way to hack my iPhone so I could use it as a webcam. Well, with Epoch Cam and Orion Cam, I'll have links in the show notes, you install a little driver on your computer, and then on your phone, you install the app. Now, with Epoch Cam, there's a free version where it's a lower quality. Once I got it set up and working on my computer with my phone, I just paid the $8 to get the pro version so I could get 1080p quality. We were testing it the other day. It looks really great. You can use the front camera, the back camera. You can use it over Wi-Fi, or you can just plug in your charging cable and do it that way. But it is a great way, especially if you're trying to get your webcam a little higher. You could prop it up, get a little tripod, put it up higher than your laptop or your computer if you need to, and have a much better webcam experience with the phone you already have, because the iPhone, you can do it on Android too. I was playing around with that. I will say the one caveat, Zoom and some of the other softwares on Mac, you have to do a little tweaking. You have to turn off some things for Zoom to be able to get it working right. You said, well, you had your whole system integrity protection turned off, so it worked for you. So if you're worried about security, it might not be the best idea, but if you're worried about having to get a better webcam, I would say try out these two services and read through the support on Epoch Cam to get it working. There's a couple commands you have to run, or I could help you with it. Let me know. But just another option to be able to do things as we continue to have more and more video meetings.
Yeah, I think it's a great solution for those who don't want to spend the now like $150 for a decent Logitech webcam. Why not just spend a few bucks and plug it right into your phone and get just as good quality?
Yes. Well, our Amazon purchase of the week. We love it when you guys use all of our affiliate links for Amazon and go shopping on Amazon. We get a little kickback, and I get to look through the anonymous reports to see what you guys are buying. This week, this might have been you, Dave, but I have a feeling maybe it wasn't. Somebody purchased, and we probably need to send them a thank you card, the Lego DC Batman 1989 Batmobile 76139 building kit, new 2020, 3,306 pieces.
Wow.
Yes. So there's been a big puzzle craze during the stay-at-home orders, as well as Lego. We've seen some friends doing various Lego projects. Jared even did a time-lapse build that's on the Facebook Notnerd group, but this is a pretty stellar version of the 1989 Batmobile.
That is amazing. I would love to have that set.
Dave, I will send you over a picture. 3,300. What's the biggest Lego set you've ever done?
I don't know. Probably just 1,500, 2,000 pieces or something.
Oh,
like that.
just 2,000 pieces. That's,
yeah. Nothing huge.
Yes, I did a 50-piece jumbled house helicopter with my daughter the other day with some random Lego pieces we had gotten from a friend. But yeah, this is pretty sweet. I sent you a picture, Dave. What would you pay for the Lego Batman 89 Batmobile?
Well, that is pretty darn cool. So the way you kind of can do this is with the number of pieces. For every 1,000 pieces, it's usually like $10, is kind of the range, which would put this one like at $35. But it is a licensed brand and it's collectible. I don't know. This thing, I'm going to guess this thing was probably $56.
Dave, you are not up. This might be the furthest you have ever been off. This is $249.95.
Yeah.
These big Lego sets are expensive.
If it just came out now, which I don't remember
it
this
is
coming out now.
new 2020.
Oh, a brand new one. Sometimes the value of these actually goes way up.
Wow.
And if you bought them for like $100, like the space shuttle and stuff like that, when it came out was about $100, maybe $200. This seems like way fewer parts than the space shuttle set. So I was not going to guess that it was a couple $100, but
Yes.
you put in the licensing and the collectability, and maybe it's a limited run, then the price is going to go up.
Yeah. Well, and I'm looking even at like the Millennium Falcon. This one is 1,300 pieces and it's $200. So I think when you get into these major, the Lego Star Wars New Hope Tentive 4 building kit, $200. So these big, specially licensed one, the price goes way up. But
I could be off on my count. I may be thinking of a different count ratio.
yes.
Maybe it's hundreds, not thousands that I'm thinking of. If it's like 130 pieces, maybe it's $13.
Yes, I think once it becomes licensed, that's when it's Star Wars or the comic book stuff, it goes way up. As I'm kind of glancing through here, it looks like you're pretty accurate on more of the general stuff. But yeah, so thank you to whoever bought that. We'll get a nice fat check of several pennies from that.
Yeah,
to help support the podcast.
Now I'm slightly embarrassed because I am a big Lego fan.
Yeah,
but to be honest, I don't buy a lot of Legos.
No.
The Legos that I have are ones that I have had for years. And I did a big pickup of some Legos at a garage sale. So stuff like that. I don't buy a lot of new sets, but I do occasionally buy some for like nieces and nephews and those type of things. So
nice.
I'm just looking at one here. Yes, you know what? It's 100 pieces for around $10, not 1,000.
Okay.
That's why my math was wrong.
Gotcha.
So, for example, there's a 72-piece Kylo Ren microfighter shuttle. It's around $10. So 70 to 100 pieces are around $10.
Gotcha.
200 or 300 pieces are $20 or $30. I had my math wrong. So by that logic, this 3,300 piece puzzle should actually be like $300.
Wow. So you're getting it for a steal.
It's a bargain.
Yes. Buy now through our link, please.
So try this next time you're in Walmart or Target or something like that. Try to find the ratio value between the number of pieces and the price, and they usually follow a certain pattern.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we will forgive you for your misstep this one time, and you'll be back on your usual extreme accuracy for your Ramazan pricing next week. We are going to wrap up this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for listening, sharing it with a friend, all that good stuff. Stay healthy and tech better.
Yeah, that was way off. I should have known better.
Yeah.
$50, I'd buy that thing in a heartbeat.